Have you ever dreamed of a place you're absolutely certain you've never been, yet every detail felt familiar? The walls had texture. The streets had history. The air had temperature. You walked through hallways that don't exist, looked out of windows that belong to no building you've ever seen, stood inside rooms that felt remembered, not imagined. But how does the mind invent places with such precision? How can you recognize a place you've never visited? And why does it sometimes feel like you're returning somewhere instead of discovering it? Tonight we enter a disturbing territory of the human mind, dreams of places you've never been, but somehow feel real, places without coordinates, without memories, without proof they exist. Yet your brain builds them, as if they were once home. There is a specific term used by psychologists for this phenomenon: novel dream environments. These are dream locations that do not correspond to any real place stored in your autobiographical memory. They feel tangible, detailed, and spatially coherent, yet you have no waking life reference for them. What makes them unsettling is not just their existence, but their consistency. Many people report returning to the same fictional places across multiple dreams, the same city, the same house, the same endless hallway, a stairwell that never seems new, only forgotten. Your brain doesn't just generate chaos, it generates architecture. Dream environments can include cities that don't exist on any map, houses with impossible internal layouts, rooms that connect illogically but feel correct, landscapes that blend familiar and unknown geometry. This phenomenon touches one of the deepest mysteries of the sleeping mind: the ability to simulate three-dimensional reality without external input. Your brain becomes an architect, an urban planner, a cartographer, building entire worlds from fragments of memory. But these aren't random mashups. They feel intentional, structured, lived in, which raises a disturbing psychological question. If the mind can invent places that feel more coherent than memory itself, how much of your waking world is truly remembered, and how much is just mentally reconstructed? Because these dreams suggest something extraordinary. The brain doesn't just remember places, it designs them, and sometimes it designs places it has never seen. To understand why the mind can create places you've never been, we have to understand how the brain builds space at all. You don't store the world in your memory as a perfect map. You store it as fragments, textures, angles, colors, emotional impressions, movement patterns. Your mind doesn't remember places, it remembers relationships between spaces. This is called spatial schema construction. In waking life, your brain constantly predicts how rooms should look, where hallways should connect, how doors should behave. These predictions are usually corrected by real sensory input. But in dreams, there is no external correction, so the brain becomes free. Instead of copying reality, it begins to interpolate, blending small memory fragments into fully formed locations. A door from your childhood home, a corridor from a hospital, a staircase from a school, a window from a hotel, individually meaningless. Together, they create a place that has never existed before in the physical world, but feels psychologically real. This is connected to a psychological mechanism known as constructive memory, the process by which memory is not replayed but actively rebuilt each time you recall it. Dreams simply remove the external anchor. The result? Memories become blueprints. Imagination becomes architecture. There's another layer to this: emotional geography. The brain often assigns emotional meaning to dream spaces. Some places feel safe, others feel heavy, others feel forbidden. These emotions guide the architecture of the dream world. Wide open spaces appear during feelings of freedom or longing. Tight corridors appear during stress or anxiety. Endless staircases appear during feelings of confusion or transition. You're not just dreaming places. You're dreaming states of mind made physical. And then there is the phenomenon of recurrent dream locations. Some people return to the same fictional places for years, the same malls, the same streets, the same impossible cities. These recurring locations often represent unfinished psychological processes, unresolved emotional situations, long-term goals, persistent fears, or deeply embedded identity themes. These places don't exist in space, they exist in meaning. The human mind is not designed to tolerate emptiness. When logic disappears during sleep, the brain fills the void with structure: walls, doors, rooms, skylines. Dream places are not just environments. They are your consciousness trying to give shape to what cannot be consciously processed. And sometimes, those places feel more stable than reality itself. When you dream of places you've never been, your brain isn't guessing, it is calculating. Deep inside the brain sits a neural system dedicated entirely to space, the hippocampal entorhinal network, the same system responsible for navigation, memory of places, and orientation in the real world. Within this system live specialized neurons called place cells and grid cells. In waking life, these cells activate when you move through real environments. They create internal maps, track distance, encode room geometry, and anchor your body within space. But during REM sleep, something extraordinary happens. These same cells begin to fire without external input. The brain starts running its own navigation software in isolation. Your mind isn't remembering places, it is simulating them. Functional MRI studies show that during spatial dreams, the hippocampus becomes extremely active, behaving as if you are physically walking through real corridors and streets, even while your body lies motionless in bed. At the same time, the posterior parietal cortex, responsible for spatial awareness and body positioning, generates a phantom sense of location. It tells your brain, you are here. But here does not exist. It is a virtual coordinate system. Neurochemically, this state is driven by elevated acetylcholine, which sharpens internal imagery, suppressed serotonin, which reduces logical consistency checks, reduced norepinephrine, which loosens emotional regulation and attention filtering. This creates the perfect mental environment for constructing impossible spaces that feel completely real. Another critical factor is the thalamus, the gateway between sensation and consciousness. During REM sleep, the thalamus shifts away from processing external input and becomes a relay for internal signals only. This means the brain is no longer grounded in the physical bedroom. It is grounded in its own simulated world. This explains why dream spaces can feel so stable, so navigable, so real. Your brain is using the same machinery it uses to walk through real cities, to walk through worlds that have never existed. It is not imagining, it is navigating, and that raises a disturbing neuroscientific implication. If the brain can generate a complete sense of space without reality, then your sense of place may never have depended on the world at all. It may have always come from within. Modern science has not only acknowledged these impossible places in dreams, it has studied them in controlled environments. One of the most influential investigations came from the University of California, Berkeley, where sleep researchers tracked subjects who frequently dreamed of unfamiliar locations. Participants were awakened during REM sleep and asked to describe the environments immediately. What researchers found was unsettling. These places were not chaotic. They had consistent architecture, stable spatial logic, recurring landmarks, and navigable layouts. When brain activity was analyzed, the hippocampus showed patterns nearly identical to those recorded when people navigated real-world cities in virtual reality experiments. In other words, the brain treated these fake places as real ones. Another powerful set of studies came from Utrecht University in the Netherlands. Researchers tracked people who repeatedly dreamed of the same fictional cities over several years. One participant described a dream city he had visited for over a decade, complete with a train station, shopping district, interconnected highways, and even evolving architecture over time. His brain scans revealed that the neural activity involved in these dreams resembled the activity of professional architects and urban planners while designing real spaces. The mind wasn't improvising, it was planning. Perhaps the most fascinating documented phenomenon is known as persistent dream geography. This is when individuals return to the same non-existent places across dozens or even hundreds of dreams. Examples documented in clinical journals include a woman who dreamed of the same impossible hotel for 15 years, a man who navigated a recurring dream campus with consistent building locations, a teenager who explored a fictional coastline that remained geographically consistent. No maps, no drawings, no real-world reference, just a stable world built entirely by the sleeping brain. Research at Stanford University's sleep laboratory revealed another shocking detail. During these dreams, the brain activates motor planning regions as if the person is physically walking through the environment. Even though the body is paralyzed, the brain issues movement commands. Turn left, walk forward, climb stairs, enter room. The mind doesn't watch these places, it moves through them. This changes everything, because it means these locations are not just visual hallucinations. They are interactive worlds, simulated by the brain with disturbing precision. Clinical psychologists have also noticed links between dream locations and emotional processing. In trauma therapy, patients often report fictional dream places that symbolically represent emotional landscapes. Abandoned cities, endless corridors, flooded towns, infinite staircases. These places don't physically exist, but psychologically, they are real. They are how the unconscious mind organizes what consciousness cannot. Across labs, cultures, and decades, science has reached a quiet conclusion. The mind is not limited to remembering the world. It is capable of building entirely new ones, with memory, structure, and continuity. While the body sleeps, the brain becomes a world builder. And some of the most vivid places you have ever visited may exist nowhere but inside your own mind. There is something deeply unsettling about walking through a place that has never existed and feeling like you belong there. No memory, no history, no coordinates. And yet, the walls held you. The floors supported you. The air felt known. Dreams of unfamiliar places reveal a secret about the human mind. You don't live inside the world. The world lives inside you. The streets you walk through at night, the rooms you enter, the cities that don't exist. They are not accidents. They are expressions, your mind giving shape to emotions you never had words for, architecture for memories you never processed, landscapes for parts of yourself you never met. And perhaps that is the real mystery, not how the brain creates places that don't exist, but why they feel more real than the ones you wake up to. Because somewhere, in the quiet structures of your unconscious, there are cities only you have walked, rooms only you remember, corridors you may return to tonight without ever knowing where they truly are. Sleep is not an escape, it is exploration.